Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with a story that, honestly, it sends a chill down my spine every time I revisit it.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
We're going back to 1995, Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh,
Right.
the bomber who took 168, lives in a single morning. And, when we look at a guy like that, someone who commits an act of such just massive destruction, the immediate instinct is to ask, why?
What went wrong?
Yeah, what went wrong in his wiring? Was he born evil? Was he a psychopath?
That is the instinctive question, absolutely. We want to find the defect in the machine.
Right, but here's the thing. McVeigh gave an interview in 2000 that completely flips the script. He didn't say he was a monster. He didn't claim insanity. He said the federal government was a teacher of violence, and he was just a good student.
It is a chilling reframing, and it's exactly where we need to start this deep dive.
Yeah.
Because if you just look at McVeigh as a bad apple or, a madman, you miss the entire sociological picture. You miss the process.
And that is our mission today. We're diving into a stack of sociological research on becoming deviant.
Yeah.
We're moving away from the why did they do it?
Yeah.
Which is, that's usually where true crime podcasts stop, and we're asking a much messier question.
A much more interesting question.
How did they become that way? How does a regular person acquire a deviant identity?
We're essentially exploring what sociologists call structural and processual theories.
Whoa, hold on. Processual, that's a mouthful. It sounds like something I'd need a dictionary for.
It is, yeah. It's just a fancy academic way of saying we're looking at the process.
The journey, not the single event.
Exactly. We aren't looking at a static moment. We are looking at a timeline of learning, labeling, and interaction. We want to debunk the myth that deviance is just like a biological glitch or a personality defect.
So it's about roles.
It's about roles. It's about what you learn and how society decides to label what you've learned.
Okay, so let's jump into the first big idea from the research. And I have to say, this one made me laugh, even though the topic is serious.
I think I know which one you mean.
The research suggests that deviants are largely hypocrites.
In a sense, yes. Think about how we view a criminal. We tend to imagine a villain in a movie,
Right.
Someone who is breaking laws 24/7. They wake up, commit a crime, eat lunch, commit another crime, go to sleep.
Like they're full-time villains. It's their whole job description.
But statistically, that is just impossible. Even the most committed career criminal spends most of their time doing completely mundane things.
Brushing their teeth.
Eating cereal, stopping at red lights, sleeping.
I found this great example in the reading about the corporate criminal. The guy engaging in massive fraud, stealing millions.
Okay.
But then he goes home and he is a pillar of the community. He's a faithful spouse who would never dream of cheating on his partner because he believes marriage is a sacred commitment.
It's fascinating, isn't it? They compartmentalize. And this leads us to a fundamental distinction in sociology that is really hard for people to grasp.
Which is?
The difference between a deviant act and a deviant role.
Okay, break that down for me.
Just because you commit a deviant act, that doesn't make you a deviant person.
The research had this weirdly specific visualization for this. It said, imagine walking onto a college campus in the middle of July. It's 90 degrees out, humid, miserable.
Yeah.
And you're wearing a heavy winter coat, a wool scarf, and earmuffs.
That is a deviant act. It violates the norm. It's weird.
People will stare.
Oh, yeah, they might whisper to their friends, look at that guy.
But does that make me a deviant with a capital D?
No, because you can take the coat off, you go into class, you sit down, and you're just a student again. The behavior is temporary.
I see.
But becoming a deviant in the sociological sense means that behavior stops being something you do and starts being who you are. It becomes a role you play.
And roles are learned, right? This is the socialization part. I assume we aren't born knowing how to be a bank robber any more than we're born knowing how to be a dentist.
Exactly. Socialization is just learning the script. We learn manners, values, skills, all from watching others.
And mirrors are crucial here.
Mirrors are crucial. We need other people to reflect our behavior back to us so we know if we're doing it right.
Speaking of mirrors, or the lack of them, I got really stuck on the story of Admiral Richard Byrd. He was a polar explorer, right?
Yes, a very famous one. In the 1930s, he spent several months completely isolated in the Antarctic.
All alone.
Just him, a small shack, and the ice. No other human beings.
And reading his diary entries, I mean, it sounds like he started to unravel.
He did. He wrote about how quickly his manners just dissolved. He stopped using utensils. He ate with his hands. He threw food on the floor.
Because why bother?
Why clean up? Who is watching? But the most profound thing he noted, and this is the part that haunts me, was what happened to his laughter.
He stopped laughing.
He stopped laughing out loud. He wrote that he would still find things funny and he would laugh inside his mind. But the physical act of making the sound,
It just went away.
it disappeared. Because laughter is a social signal. It's a performance we do for others to say, I get the joke, or I am with you. Without an audience, the performance just stops.
That is wild. It really shows how much of our normal behavior is just a show we put on for other people.
And deviant behavior is the same. It's a performance. It's learned. You have to learn the role. And this brings us to the concept of the role set.
We all juggle multiple roles.
All of us. You're a host, maybe a sibling, a friend, a taxpayer.
But those don't always fit together perfectly, like what happens when they fight. The research calls this role strain.
It's the tension between conflicting expectations. Think about a college student. Their parents expect the good daughter role.
Studying on a Friday night, getting straight A's.
Exactly, but their peer group role demands they go to the party and be the fun friend. You can't be both at the same time. That creates strain.
Okay, so we have these little conflicts, but here is where it gets really dark. Sometimes one specific label becomes so powerful, so overwhelming, that it eats all the other roles alive.
The master role.
This is the point of no return.
Often, yes. If society labels you a sex offender or an alcoholic or a felon, that label is so sticky, so heavy, that it pushes everything else aside.
All your other identities just fade away.
You might be a talented painter, a loving son, a chess champion, a volunteer. But if you have the felon label, that is the only lens through which the world views you.
And the scary part is, the research suggests you start to organize your own life around that label.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You stop being a person who committed a crime, and you become a criminal.
That's the tragedy of the master role. It limits your options to be anything else. Society effectively says, this is all you are, and eventually you believe it.
So if we accept that deviance is a role, and it's something people fall into, sociologists have to figure out how to study it.
Right.
And this seems tricky because if you walk in judging the person, oh, that's a bad guy, you're not going to learn anything.
No, if you walk into a study thinking, this behavior is wrong and I need to fix it, you're doing social work or law enforcement. You aren't doing sociology.
So what's the alternative?
To understand deviance, you need appreciation.
Appreciation. That sounds odd, like we're giving them a round of applause. Good job being a drug dealer.
No, it's not approval. It's empathy. It's the ability to see the world through the deviant's eyes, to understand their internal logic. Because to them, their behavior makes sense.
There was that study on exotic dancers, strippers, that I thought illustrated this perfectly. An outsider, maybe someone from a conservative background, looks at them and says, oh, these are deviant women. They have low morals. They must be damaged.
But when researchers actually interviewed them, practicing appreciation, they found the dancers didn't see themselves that way at all.
How did they see themselves?
They saw themselves as mothers needing to pay rent. They saw themselves as smart consumers exploiting men's desires to pay for tuition. They saw the dancing as just a job.
They compartmentalized. They kept the dancer role in a box to keep it from contaminating their real identity.
Which is a very common survival strategy. The research calls this stigma management.
The survival kit.
It's a toolkit, yeah. If you have a master role that society hates, you need a toolkit to handle that judgment. You need a way to survive the glare.
Let's run through that toolkit, because I think, if we're honest, we all use these techniques, even if we aren't deviants. First one is obvious. Secrecy.
The path of least resistance. If you have a sexually transmitted disease or a criminal record or a weird hobby, you hide it. You try to pass as normal.
Then there's manipulating the setting. This is about changing the scenery to make it look legit. The example given was phone sex workers.
This is a great example of managing impressions. Phone sex is a stigmatized job.
Right.
But the workers would decorate their desks with family photos, cartoons, little trinkets.
I love that detail. It's like they were trying to turn a sordid workspace into a boring corporate office.
Exactly. Or they tell their families they are telemarketers. They manipulate the physical cues to ward off the judgment. They're creating a buffer between the dirty work and their clean self-image.
But the tool I think we need to spend a minute on, because I'm definitely guilty of it, is rationalization.
The mental gymnastics.
Yeah. This is justifying the act. Like,
Okay.
if I speed on the highway, I don't say, I am a reckless criminal endangering lives. I say, I'm late and everyone else is doing it.
And that is exactly what the shoplifter says. The store has insurance. They rip us off with high prices anyway.
Or I'm doing this for my child.
Or the embezzler says, I'm just borrowing it, I'll pay it back. It's a way of neutralizing the guilt. You frame the act as necessary or harmless so you can sleep at night.
The last one in the toolkit was joining deviant subcultures.
This is finding a safe harbor. If you're a heavy drug user or historically a member of the LGBTQ community in a very restrictive era, you find your people.
You go where you're accepted.
You go to the gay bar, you go to the drug house. In that space, the stigma evaporates. You don't have to explain yourself. You can just be.
But that reinforces the identity, doesn't it? If all your friends are in the subculture, you're never going to leave that role.
It solidifies the master role. It becomes your whole world.
Okay, I want to pivot here because I can feel the listener and honestly part of myself pushing back. We've talked about roles and learning and society. But when I see a serial killer on the news or someone doing something truly horrific, my brain doesn't scream bad socialization. It screams, that guy is sick.
Of course.
Why is it so hard for us to let go of the idea that they are just broken inside, that they are a bad apple?
This is the common sense trap. We love individualistic theories because they're simple. They're clean.
What do you mean?
If the problem is in your biology or your twisted mind, we don't need to change our society. We just need to lock you up or medicate you. It's an easy fix.
So let's put these common sense theories on trial. The sources spend a lot of time critiquing them. Let's start with biology, the search for the crime gene.
This obsession goes back centuries. Lombroso in the 1800s measuring skulls. Today, it's looking for chromosomal anomalies or hormonal imbalances.
Is there anything to it?
It's messy. The sociological critique is simple. Biology sets physical limits. I can't fly no matter how hard I try. But biology doesn't explain complex social meanings.
Meaning what?
Meaning there is no gene for bank robbery. I mean, think about it. What is a bank? It's a social invention. What is money? It's a social agreement.
Your DNA doesn't know what a stock market is.
Exactly. So how could you have a gene that compels you to embezzle from it?
That makes sense. You might have high testosterone or low impulse control. That's the biology. But society teaches you how to use that aggression. Maybe you become a linebacker for the NFL, or maybe you become a hitman.
Precisely. The biology loads the gun, but the social environment pulls the trigger.
Okay, what about the medical model?
Yeah.
This is the idea that deviance is a sickness. We see this everywhere now. Alcoholism is a disease. Crime is a pathology.
We call this the medicalization of deviance.
Yes.
And it leads to a huge logical flaw that drives sociologists crazy, the tautology trap.
Okay, I read this section 3 times and I'm still struggling with it. It feels like a dog chasing its own tail.
It is a circular argument. Let's look at Jeffrey Dahmer again. We look at him and say, Jeffrey Dahmer is mentally ill.
Okay,
What?
that seems reasonable.
And if I ask you, how do you know he's mentally ill? What do you say?
I say, well, because he ate people. That's insane.
And then if I ask, why did he eat people?
Because he was mentally ill.
Do you see the circle?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You are using the act to prove the sickness and then using the sickness to explain the act. It explains nothing.
It's just a label we slap on things that scare us.
Unless you have independent evidence like a visible brain tumor on a scan, simply labeling the behavior as sick is just a way to categorize it. It blurs the line between bad behavior and medical illness.
Then we have the psychoanalytic approach. Freud. The id, the ego.
The idea that you have buried childhood trauma, mommy issues,
Is that valid?
it's a compelling story. But from a scientific standpoint, you can't test it.
Yeah, so.
You can't put an id in a test tube. You can't measure a superego. And sociologists argue it ignores the immediate pressure. If you're stealing bread, maybe it's not because you hated your father. Maybe it's because you're hungry right now.
And finally, the psychological approach. The personality tests. Trying to find the criminal personality.
They've tried for decades. They use tests like the MMPI, and the verdict is basically failure. There is no consistent deviant personality.
Really?
You can find people who score as aggressive or antisocial running Fortune 500 companies.
So the difference isn't the personality trait, it's the social status.
Exactly. The aggressive guy in the boardroom is a leader. The aggressive guy in the bar is a thug. Same trait, different label.
There's one more theory we need to cover, and this one feels very modern. It feels like how economists think. Rational choice theory.
The calculator view.
Yeah. The idea that people aren't sick and they aren't forced by society, they just do the math. Cost versus benefit.
This is an old idea, actually. It goes back to philosophers like Bentham. It says humans are hedonistic. We seek pleasure. We avoid pain.
And if the pleasure of the crime outweighs the pain of the potential punishment?
You do it. It's a simple calculation.
There was an interview in our research with a shoplifter named Floyd. And I loved Floyd because he was so honest. He wasn't stealing bread to feed a starving family.
Oh, no. Floyd was stealing because he enjoyed it. He said even if he had a 50-50 chance of getting caught, he'd still do it.
He called it an accomplishment.
For him, the benefit wasn't just the item he stole. It was the thrill, the feeling of beating the system.
So does that disprove the sociological view? If Floyd is just choosing to steal for kicks?
Not at all. Sociologists acknowledge choice exists. We aren't robots. But, and this is the key, but our choices are constrained.
What do you mean constraint?
Imagine a restaurant menu. You have free will to choose anything on the menu, but you can only choose what is on the menu.
And society writes the menu.
Exactly. Think of a CEO and a homeless person. Both have free will. Both can make rational choices.
But they have very different menus.
The CEO is choosing between stock options or a merger. The homeless person is choosing between sleeping under a bridge or in a dangerous shelter. The structure determines the menu of choices available to you.
So Floyd, the shoplifter, might be making a choice, but his social background, his education, his role set, those defined what choices were available to satisfy that need for a thrill.
Precisely. Rational choice theory helps explain the moment of decision, but it doesn't explain how the person got to that crossroads in the first place.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a lot of ground today.
If we zoom out, the big takeaway is that becoming deviant isn't a lightning strike. It's not bad genes or sudden madness.
It's a process.
It is a process. It involves learning a role, just like you learn to be a student or an employee. It involves managing the stigma that society throws at you. And crucially, it involves that master role when the label becomes the life.
It really challenges you to stop looking at the individual as an island. You can't understand the bad apple without looking at the barrel.
And the orchard and the farmer.
Right. The individualistic theories, biology, psychology, they are seductive because they offer easy answers. Fix the broken person. But sociology says, look at the broken interactions, the labels, the power dynamics.
And that is a much harder, but much more honest way to look at the world.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with something to chew on. We spent this whole time talking about them, the criminals, the deviants, the outliers. But I want to turn the camera around.
Go on.
We talked about the master role, the label that defines everything you are. You, listening to this right now, you have a master role, whether you know it or not. Maybe it's respectable mother, maybe it's hardworking student, maybe it's law-abiding citizen.
Those are powerful scripts.
But imagine if I strip that away. Imagine if you were dropped into a completely different culture tomorrow, a place where you didn't know the rules, where your polite habits were considered rude, where your hard work was seen as greedy.
You wouldn't know the script.
You wouldn't know the script, and you might find that you, the good person, are suddenly the deviant. So the question is, are you actually normal? Or do you just happen to be playing the right role on the right stage at the right time?
That is a terrifying thought.
Thanks for deep diving with us.
Stay curious.